Well, the Mario movie is out, and many families are trying to figure out should they take their families to go see it? Should their kids go to the theaters? Is it worth their time? Many people love the Mario franchise. They love Nintendo. They love the games. It's the backdrop of their childhood, and they have fondest memories of it. It's a multi generational kind of experience. But for whatever reason, this thing is being pulled into the gigantic culture war with some critics out there even making stuff completely up. I've seen the movie. I now know who's out there just fabricating a bunch of, well, fiction, and I'm going to share it all with you. Hang in there and let's get going. Explaining entertainment, keeping you ahead of the culture curve. It's what we do each and every day here on the WDW Pro channel. If you like content like this, consider clicking the like button, share, subscribe, and you can stick it to the algorithms when you click it. We're talking about that notification bell. It's a power up for this channel. We cover your comments, so drop one down below. Mario is out. I've just come out of the theaters, and I have taken some friends with me to go find out what their reaction was, including some kiddos going to see the movie with me, because this is a movie primarily aimed at children, and so we need to know what children think of it, right? How about that? You would not want me reviewing necessarily a rom-com. It's not my cup of tea. You would not want me reviewing a horror film. It's not my cup of tea. And when it comes to family films that are aimed at children, I'm not a child anymore. And as much as I like to think that I can assess these things well, I need the little guys to go to help me understand what they're thinking. That's who this movie is for. Of course, it's also for families, and it's also for all those generations of fans that want to go watch Mario. It's been a long time since Mario appeared on the big screen, but there's been plenty of Mario on little screens, really little screens, and some medium-sized screens ever since, right? Mario is the character that sort of epitomizes all of video games. You could make an argument that it's Pac-Man or Mega Man, perhaps Sonic, but really I think when it comes to symbolizing video games in general, Mario probably is at the top. Now, I do want to go ahead and tell you that this movie is not as good as Mario games are. It does not rise to the level of enjoyment that you'll get out of a Mario game. In fact, I would say that this is more on par with the level of enjoyment that you probably had when you went and saw Sonic the Hedgehog. Now, they're very different movies, but I think they're on par in terms of quality. And just to go ahead and get to this, so you don't have to watch the entire video if you don't want to, but I think you'll enjoy if you do, because we're going to talk about some people who've been making some stuff up just to drag this movie down. But in terms of the overall quality, I would say that if you're an adult who enjoys Mario stuff, if you enjoy Nintendo stuff, if you've played the games, then this is probably going to be about a 7 out of 10 for you. If you are an adult taking children and you're having fun taking your kiddos or your nieces or nephews or whoever to go watch this movie, it's probably going to be an 8 out of 10. But one of the funny things is that as the film concluded, I leaned over and asked the kids, I said, okay, what did you guys think about it? Was it good? And said, scale of 1 to 10, what do you think? One child said it was a 10. The other child said it was a 100. So is it a success with the people who are going to be the target demographic? You bet. The kiddos who are going to be buying all those toys and playing those Mario games and going for Happy Meals, they loved this movie. They loved it. I would recommend that if you take your family, and if you can stand to watch it in 3D, I really do think that this movie is made for 3D, and I think you're going to have a good time. I did not personally see it in 3D. The earliest showing was not in 3D, and so therefore, in order to make the deadline for this afternoon's video, I needed to see it in just standard 2D. But you could clearly tell that much of it was designed for 3D. Now let's talk about the story here. There's been quite a bit of complaining, and I've been shocked, and I'm not usually shocked, but I would have thought that Mario and Nintendo were big enough that perhaps this would escape the culture war, right? That people would not attempt to pull this thing down like they do Harry Potter. But this thing is getting J.K. Rowling with the critics, and that's crazy to me. These people are nuts. Like, some of them are just flat out making stuff up. I'll give you some examples without naming names. There's been a critic out there, a commentator, who said that these characters look ridiculous because they wear costumes, and the other characters in the real world, per se, right, Brooklyn, that they don't look like that. Why do these characters look like that? Well, it's explained in the movie. I mean, explicitly explained. along with why they're wearing white gloves. All of that is explicitly explained. This idea that that there's a problem with the voices right off, the movie takes on the voice issue and makes it make perfect sense. I think most people are going to have a good time with it, and I think it has an appropriate and proper, respectful nod to the original voice actor for Mario, who I assume will continue playing that role in video games and being a part of the Nintendo Cinematic Universe. Even I think that's clearly what they intend to do, and I was pleased with how they handled that. In terms of the story, though, I do know why these critics are making up just absolute nonsense. And that's the thing. Like, if you don't like this movie, I can understand why you might not like it. I can play around with some of the criticisms that are going to happen. But if you make stuff up, that's weird. Why would you make stuff up that is just nonsense about a children's movie, about a family movie? Well, here's why. The people who don't like this film, I get it. I don't think they're right, but I understand them. You see, their biggest criticism, what they're not going to say out loud probably, is that they very much dislike that, and I'm going to avoid spoilers, but I'll come to the edge of it, okay? What they don't like is they don't like the idea that the bad guy wants to marry the princess. And they don't like that the princess is at least somewhat attracted to the hero. And they don't like that the princess is put in a position of having to perhaps marry the bad guy. Now, this is a trope that goes way back in storytelling. In fact, one of the biggest times we've seen this in recent cinematic history came about 20 years ago when the original Shrek movie debuted, and Princess Fiona is going to have to marry Lord Farquaad. But this is played out many times in stories, right? Of the princess having to marry someone she does not want to marry for whatever reason. But they don't like that. They don't like it at all. And it's not enough that, yes, indeed, Princess Peach is at that very edge of girl boss. And we've talked about this before on this channel, that I had heard that Nintendo in the early days said, no, we're going to have to pull this back. I have to say that having watched the movie now, Nintendo, if they had not pulled this back, I think this would have been a disaster. And you can actually see that there are times when the script is fighting with itself, where it wants Princess Peach to be the star of this movie, and then it will pull itself back and do the right thing. And I'm very glad that Nintendo apparently took a stand. This could have turned out very poorly for them, and they would not have had a good time with two Mario movies having issues like that. But I think that's what makes the critics so angry. They dislike that there are times when Princess Peach needs help. I don't think that they like that at all. They also take issue with the overall story, right? They say that there's no story here. And I agree that this movie needed to be honestly 10 minutes longer. It moves too fast. There are times when it needed to slow down, give us more flashbacks, give us more exposition. We needed to find out, what Mario really thinks about discovering a new world that is totally different and shocking. It's a little shocking to the audience when he just accepts it and moves on with that revelation, right? It's a huge, huge thing. It should be this massive epiphany in his life, and that really doesn't come through. But it's simply because the writers and the director, they're trying to move this movie on so quickly to get it into that 90-minute time frame. That's animation costs, by the way. And in the long run, even though it's a narrative mistake, it's probably a financial plus because they saved a ton of money by not animating even more, and it'll be able to show in screens even more because of it. But yes, I do agree that the movie needed to slow down and take a few extra minutes to help us with some of these very cool motifs and tropes that are going on. By that, I mean that this movie is essentially about two brothers and their great respect for one another. Mario plays the scrappy protagonist who just won't quit. Despite failures, he keeps learning and keeps growing. Princess Peach is given a good reason for being as strong and powerful as she is. She's not a Rey Skywalker. She has existed in this world and become accustomed to it, and Mario is still learning. That said, there are times, once again, where she does go tipping past that edge and into a sort of personality that's a little bit too far. There are times when I worried that Mario was not going to be the hero of his own movie. But just in the nick of the time, he comes back and saves the day. He and his brother Luigi both get a appropriate send-off, an appropriate finale to this movie. And I do think that this will launch the Nintendo Cinematic Universe. Absolutely. I think that Chris Pratt did a fine job. I think that all the other voice actors did a fine job. Even Seth Rogen did not annoy me too badly, although I don't get that. I don't understand why he was cast as Donkey Kong. He just doesn't sound like what I would imagine Donkey Kong would sound like. The true standout here is Jack Black as Bowser. He does a phenomenal job. I hope that we get more Bowser in the future, even though the critics despise the fact that Bowser wants to marry Peach. They hate that idea. They hate it. But it is what it is. And it's a very, very old story idea that goes throughout all kinds of narratives throughout time. And I don't think that we have truly moved on from the idea that one of the bad guys might try to force a marriage with the princess, as much as they might despise that concept. So it is an amalgamation of Western and Japanese storytelling come together. You can kind of feel the battle between those two different cultures in this movie, but the music is fantastic. It's bright, it's colorful. Kids truly are going to love it. In the first third of the film, I thought this was going to be spectacular. In the middle third, I kind of thought, uh-oh, we may have a problem. And then the final third was quite good again. But that middle is a little rough. In the future, I hope that Nintendo Cinematic Universe movies can rise to the level of Nintendo games. But as is, I do recommend that you take your kids to go see this. I think you'll have a very fun time. And I think that everybody can come away from this saying, those critics, they're nuts. And that is a good thing. It's especially good if the market responds and this money makes lots of money. And then we can all, yet again, remember that all those crazy people on the internet who decide that they're going to make stuff up for people, millions of people even, who can very quickly verify that, what are you talking about? It would be nice if all of those people were revealed to not have much influence at all. And so I vote that we all go and vote in favor of Mario. You'll have a good time. It's not great, it's not Toy Story 3, but it's Minions level, and that's not bad. Folks, if you like content like this, consider clicking the like button, share, subscribe, and click that notification bell. When you do, you stick it to the algorithms. Drop a comment down below. Have you seen Mario? What did you think about it? Let me know. Did it go too far? Did it not go far enough? Did you want more of it? And are you excited about more movies, especially if they can spend some more time and get them even better than this one is? I'm excited to hear from you. And wherever you are, whatever you're doing, keep learning, keep growing, and keep having fun.